Hey, my name's James Nicholson and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I've got some updates on the EPC legislation. We've got some talk from Ed Miliband, what he's saying about EPCs. He thinks you don't need to worry if you're a landlord. Well, we'll talk about whether landlords are worrying or not, or maybe do they even know that this is going on? We're going to talk about that as well in this video. So if you're new around here and you want to know all about the latest information for property investing and much, much more, do subscribe to the channel over there and hit the bell notification. And let's get more views on this video because a lot of landlords aren't aware of this. So how can we get them aware? Smash like, tickle like, do something to the like button. That helps with the YouTube algorithm. And this will push it out to more landlords to help them understand what's coming through from the Labour government. So, EPCs. We thought they'd gone away with the last government. You see, the Tories for years were saying you're going to have to get your EPC to a level C or you're not going to be able to rent your property. And I think at one stage it needed to be done by 2025. Then it got pushed back. And then eventually before the election, they said, look, we're just cancelling this. We're not going to make this a thing. So landlords felt a sigh of relief at that stage until Labour came back in. And Miliband has said, look, not only am I going to make the EPC regulations happen, I'm going to make them happen sooner. And I'm going to make you spend more money to get your property up to standard. So let's quickly talk about what the standards are. And if you want some more details on this, I've made a comprehensive ebook. I'm going to link that below. Do grab a copy of that ebook. Hundreds of people did already. Share it with a landlord you know as well. So let's just look at what's going on. So right now, 2.58 million rental properties do not have an EPC level C or above. That's a lot. And if you think about it, it's not long. 2030 is when this legislation is supposedly going to become active. Now, that's a worry. So in a survey, 42% of landlords had no idea, literally zero idea, that the government is imposing this EPC higher standard. That's a worrying number, nearly half of landlords. Of those surveyed as well, 75% of them said they're not going to do anything. They're just going to leave it and see what happens. A lot of answers were things like Labour won't be in power in 2030, or they'll kick it back like the Conservatives did time and time again. So that's a real worry that maybe most of these, let's just say 2 million of these properties don't get updated and it gets to 2029 and Labour are still adamant that this is going to happen. It's going to be a real problem then because you can't have all those properties evicting tenants and causing carnage because there's nowhere for them to go. So who knows how this is going to work out. But the new proposals are that if you have a property and your tenant leaves by 2028, around 2028, a new tenancy, so any new tenancies in 2028 or beyond, you've got to have a level C. You've got to have a level C. So that means that you've got to spend some money on getting your property up to standard. And the initial consultation said that they would force landlords to spend a minimum of £10,000 improving the property. Now, if in that scenario you spent £10,000 and you owned a Victorian property that you couldn't get up to a level C, then in that scenario, you would get the tick exercise done and you wouldn't have to spend any more. Now, here's where the problem lies with that. Initially, it was £10,000, but the problem is they don't say when that starts from. So if you start spending money now, which is the ideal scenario, because really this is to make a tenant's quality of experience better, right? And to bring their energy bills down. But if you were to spend 20 grand now, put solar in and to put double glazing in and improve the property, what happens if it doesn't count towards that 10,000 spent? Because this isn't actually a bill that's active at the moment. It's not law. So who knows? So that will stop landlords doing the work for now. So this needs to get clarification on that. What also happened is that 10,000 went up to £15,000 now. That's the current levels that they're saying that each property, not each landlord, each property. You've got 10 properties, 150 grand. You've got to spend on improving those properties. Now here's another problem. We don't have enough contractors to work on 2.58 million properties to improve those. You try getting a builder now, it's very, very hard. You've also got the fact that these builders are meant to be building 1.5 million extra properties. So I don't think this has been massively thought out, but we still got to be aware, because potentially if this comes in, the government could say you can't rent your property or you're going to get fines. So what also they're saying in here is that you'll have an EPC at the end of each tenancy. That's in the drafts at the moment. So that means if your tenant leaves every 6 months, because maybe it's in an area where there's just a lot of turnover of people are transient and they don't stay long in those areas, you'd have to get a new EPC every 6 months. And that's just a waste of money. I understand a gas safe because that's safety, but an EPC hasn't changed in that time unless you've done work. So why are we being forced to do that? That's something that's in the bill that potentially may stick and we might have to deal with as well. So constantly renewing your EPC. Right now they last up to 10 years. So that's a big, big difference. And here's a very important thing to know if you weren't aware of this EPC stuff. There's a new EPC way of measuring this in 2026. So next year, EPCs are kind of scrapped and they're going to figure out a new way to figure out what the EPCs will be. Now, here's what's happened in commercial. This office I'm in right here has got a low EPC. I can't remember. It's like an F or a G. It's low, right? It's got nice sash windows. They look great, but they can be a bit cold. So my landlord had to go through the process because commercial properties already have on offices and stuff like that certain standards on EPCs. Now, the landlord got an EPC surveyor out. I've had this office for 10 years. Nobody has done any improvements in that time. And their EPC magically went up a level because the government changed how they're worked out. So that could happen for landlords because a lot of properties are a level D at the moment. And so they could change how it's worked out and make, in that scenario, it may be the fact that the property is now a level C. So that could happen. Then Labour can tick it off, get all the news headlines that they got the EPC stuff in and weren't they great, and give themselves a nice big pat on the back. So that means that if you are a landlord, my recommendation is you don't start any work until you know how the new EPC rules are. You need to see what happens with that new EPC regulation next year, how those are figured out. And from that, you'll be able to make a decision. Maybe you don't need to upgrade your property. Maybe you're going to jump up. Or maybe it goes the other way and maybe you've got a D and it goes down to an E. I don't think it will, but that is something to consider as well. So the point is, not enough people know that this EPC stuff is on the radar. Grab the ebook so you've got all the details on how to improve it for cheap, and subscribe to the channel so you get all of the updates as and when they happen. Do check out all the other content on the channel as well. We've got more than 1,000 property videos now, and maybe go and check out this video right here.